I'm standing in the Hamilton Cemetery on Burlington Heights, just across the road from Dundurn Castle. And for once, I'm standing in a cemetery not to talk to you about the dead bodies here, but rather on the ground that I'm standing on. I hope you can get a look at this little hill I'm standing on as it snakes away from me. I'm standing on the remains of a fort built in the War of 1812. I don't even know if this fort ever had a name. It's sometimes referred to as Fort Burlington. But it was only here for a little while. And the story goes like this, okay? In the spring of 1813, the Americans launched an attack on Fort George in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and they drove the British out. The British Army fell back to here, and they very hastily built this fort, the walls of the fort that I'm standing on, and they cleared the trees around it to create what we would call nowadays a kill zone. Now, after April of 1813, York, now Toronto, was attacked and fell to the Americans. And so this was the last British position between Niagara and Kingston. There was only 700 men here, and they knew the Americans were coming. Now, the Americans arrived on around June the 4th, 1813, or rather, actually June 3rd, I guess it would have been. And they camped for the night at a place a couple miles south of here called Stoney Creek. Now, according to the records, a British officer by the name of Fitzgibbon, who would later become more famous for being the man Laura Seeker was trying to reach later in 1813 when she went on her famous walk, dressed himself up as a local peddler and went amongst the Americans pretending to try and sell butter. And in so doing, he reconnoitered the American position at Stoney Creek. Also, according to local legend, on the evening of the 4th, a young man by the name of Billy Green came to the British at this position here. He too had news about the Americans at Stoney Creek, but apparently he also had the American password. Now, the American forces were between 3,000 and 4,000. There's a plaque around here that puts it at 3,750. The British here were, as I said, about 700. But they decided to risk everything on a night attack and on surprise. So on that night, the men set out here under the direction of a man called Colonel Harvey, and also the British commander, General Vincent, who got lost on the way. And they launched the attack on the Americans, and it was wildly successful. The British, outnumbered 3-4 more to 1, drove the Americans out and secured this part of the country. The Americans never made it back this far for the remainder of the war. The fort here wasn't occupied much longer after that. Before 1813 was out in December, they would retake Fort George and occupy that position again. And this fort was left behind, abandoned. And ultimately, it made a convenient spot to set up a cemetery, and also for Premier McNabb to build his grand house, Dundurn Castle, across the road from us here. So this is really a rather historic spot. Not much here to memorialize it by, though, I'm afraid.